and welcome back to the Tim's Sports Talk. And today we have Michael Darcy from the KC Sports Report with us to discuss the Washington versus Chiefs game. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'd like to apologize for being a little bit late, but it should be a good game and fun one to preview.
Awesome. Yep, no worries. It happens. Thank you for coming on short notice. I just messaged you, 2 days ago or something like that? So thank you very much for coming on to the channel. Really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and have some fun. So first off, we're going to start with some questions for you. How did you become a Kansas City Chief fan?
Well, I'm from Kansas City, still live here. And so, when you kind of grow up in the culture, both a Chiefs and a Royals fan, and, both of those squads have had their ups and downs, and the Royals have had a lot more downs. But, the Chiefs have had their fair share of ups and downs as well. And right now they're not playing very good football, but over the past couple of years, they've been playing pretty well. And
pretty well. I'd say pretty well describes it.
Yeah, I've grown up in the city, and everyone's Chiefs fans here.
I gotcha. Fair enough. Thank you for everybody for joining us. DB's here. Asan, Mambi, what's up? I see Screm Gaming also. Of course, Jairus. Thank you all for joining us. All right, cool. Yeah, same thing for me. I grew up in the D.C. area, 20 minutes out away from the stadium. So, yep, home team fan, homegrown. My dad said apparently at one point I was kind of like trying to be like a bandwagon when I was like 6, 7 years old on like the greatest show on turf, like kind of falling in love with that team. And he was like, nope. You're going to be a Washington fan. Here it is. This is how it's going to be. And, 20 some odd years later, I'm still a Washington fan. I was born in 93. Last time we won was 91. So very different scenarios between me and you. But it's all good. We're having fun. All right. Cool. Do you have any background in football or any other sports?
I played baseball growing up as a kid. I actually didn't play football, but I've always kind of had that interest I've always loved talking about sports and covering the teams. And, so I don't really have a lot of background in sports other than like playing a few of them, and I just love covering them and watching and breaking down everything.
Fair enough. You don't have to. I was just curious.
Yeah. I do wish I played football growing up. That is one regret I have.
Yep. I only played flag football up until college, and I walked onto the football team. I went to a D3 school, and so the first time I actually suited up in pads was actually at the college level. So I didn't grow up playing the sport either. I was a basketball guy my whole life, but I've always been a Skins fan, fantasy football ever since I was like 12, so of course, I've learned a lot about the game as well. Cool. How did your channel get started? I see you have don't you have 5 or 6K or something like that?
Yeah, hit.
So how'd you get started?
Honestly, I got a podcast set for Christmas one year, and it sat there for like 2 or 3 years. Okay. And then in 2018, I was like, I'm going to make a run at this, and I just decided to start it with a friend of mine. It was just like February of 2018. And, I don't think a lot of the content was very good that I put out, but, you got to start somewhere. And
exactly. 100%.
The stuff that you put out in the beginning is not going to be any good. But, I'm to a point right now over the past really 6-7 months where I really like what I'm putting out. And I'm happy to say that because even looking back at a year or two ago, it's just like, that wasn't very good. I could have done that differently. But it's always come from the passion of just wanting to talk to Chiefs fans and Royals fans and just connecting with an audience. I'm sure you had that same passion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I started in the pandemic. It was actually the Zoom calls. I started talking to somebody about the Skins, and they were like, you should do a podcast. And I was like, you know what? I did just buy a computer. Why not? Let's throw it together and see what happens. So, but I was right there. I'm right there with you as far as how terrible it was in the start. I go back and watch my first video of the recap of the 2020 draft with cringe-worthiness. The uhs, the ums, the pauses, the this, the oh yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But hey, now we're here. So I'm only 4 subs away from 2K. So that's gonna be fun.
Guys, get him to 2K while we're here.
Yep. Yeah, we're right there. Luzza, thank you for subbing to Mr. KC Sports Report. Yeah, his link is in the description if you want to go sub to his channel. And also at his on Twitter is also in there. So, cool. Let's see. How much fun has it been being a Chiefs fan? Obviously, winning all over the place. Pat Mahomes, arguably the best player in sports. I would argue that. How does it feel to also just have great confidence going to each game? Going into each game. Obviously, we've only had 2 winning seasons in the last decade or something stupid like that. Not been 3 winning seasons maybe, and it's only been 10-6 was the best. No playoff wins. So how does it feel to always be winning, and or it seems like always be winning.
Yeah.
So far.
It's definitely an awesome feeling. Don't get me wrong. Like winning changes everything. And I feel like ever since Patrick Mahomes took over in 2018, I've just kind of felt that like the Chiefs can win any game, like literally any game. Now, with that being said, though, this year feels a little bit different because this defense, I'm sure we're going to get into that later in the video.
Absolutely,
This defense is horrible. Like,
this question's more for, like, of course, like the last 3 seasons. Your worst record's, 12-4?
Yeah, I mean, we've been to
right
back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Coming from the Alex Smith era, and you get bounced after the first round, it's just like...
You were 11-5 that year, too.
So you be...
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up a little bit there. We missed that.
You love to be in a position to compete for me. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so you were breaking up a little bit there. We didn't really catch any of that last part. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the last thing you heard?
Honestly, the start of this sentence. So it like really started breaking up bad. Right.
Okay.
Whatever you just started with. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's awesome, obviously, seeing the winning and competing for championships. But with that, we come having expectations for championships. And this year, they haven't started off too great. And I have a lot of concerns because this is not really any prototypical Chiefs team that we've seen over the past couple of years. And I don't have that same confidence that I did last year. We're going into every game. I was like, yeah, the Chiefs are going to wipe this team off the face of the planet. And this year, I don't have that.
Fair enough. As I said, we'll definitely get into all that for sure. Just a little bit about the Saints offseason before we hop into this. Just a few things. How in the world, and are you surprised by this, do you still retain Eric Bieniemy? Like, he's talked about as like the number one coaching option for a head coach somewhere else. Are you surprised by this? And how is this possible?
I'm very surprised, and I think that the biggest reason is I guess he's a terrible interviewer from what I've heard.
Well, he hasn't even had a chance to interview, right? Because he's always in the Super Bowl, and everybody hires before the Super Bowl.
Well, I think he interviewed for the Texans, and they're just like, that wasn't very good, but their head coaching hire wasn't all that good either. So I honestly don't know why he's not a head coach somewhere else, but I think he's definitely got the potential and the talent to be, but I could honestly see him getting rolled over another year because, he's getting up there in age for a coach that you kind of want to go with somebody younger. So there's a very high possibility that he still stays in Kansas City after this year. But I honestly want him to go somewhere and succeed because we've seen that Matt Nagy hasn't really succeeded, but he got a head coaching job somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think Eric Bieniemy at least deserves that chance.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm very surprised. Other things in your offseason, you trade for the Orlando Brown to make a big trade. You traded a first-round pick, and there's some other things that happened. I don't remember all the details.
It was just a couple pick swaps towards the end.
How did you like that move?
It was a really good move. The Chiefs cut Eric Fisher this offseason, and I thought that the Chiefs really needed to bulk up that offensive line following the Super Bowl performance. And they did that. They traded for Orlando Brown Jr. I was honestly surprised that the Ravens decided to give up a left tackle to the Chiefs when they're really the biggest threat in the AFC. Like that'd be like Washington giving the Cowboys an asset. It just doesn't make sense. But we were lucky enough to get that, and I think he's performed okay up until this point. He definitely could have been better. I just get worried about the contracts. Like, how are you going to pay this dude who's going to want elite tier offensive line money? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that he's been playing like elite tier offensive linemen. I just don't think he has.
Fair enough. I haven't kept up with that, so that's interesting to hear from a Chiefs fan perspective. Okay, so maybe not living up to the first round.
Draft. He's for sure been better than what we could have gotten for a first round draft pick.
Okay,
but he has some work to do. He's not playing his best football right now, I would say.
This comment got me. Look at my background compared to yours. Dan Snyder's.
I know. I'm in the basement. I wish I had a setup like yours.
It was not a hate on you. It was actually more of a hate on our owner that he's still somehow getting us to buy this merchandise with all this terribleness that we've had for over 2 decades. No, but
I do admire your setup though. I got to get one of those.
Thanks. Yeah, I just set it up like 2 weeks ago. It's pretty cool. Me and my wife set it up, and I feel good about it as well. Thanks for the compliment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to your draft a little bit. You don't have to sit too long on this, but you can if you want, whatever you want to say about it. But you did draft Nick Bolton, the linebacker after Missouri, in the second round. I see also like Cornell Powell was a guy that I knew going into the draft. The rest of the draft picks, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really know. And I was just curious how you feel about your draft class coming in to this season. Did you like it after the draft, or did you think that they made some weird moves? What did you think about it?
There was a couple questionable moves, in my opinion. Like, we drafted Joshua Kando in the 4th round, and he was a guy that wasn't good in college, but he had good athleticism and tools. He hasn't really done anything this year. I didn't expect him to. Creed Humphrey was our second-round draft pick. So we drafted Nick Bolton with the Ravens pick that they traded us in the Orlando Brown one. And we got Creed Humphrey with our second-round pick, and he so far has been, I think, the highest-graded center by PFF this year, which is fantastic. Nick Bolton is a guy that a lot of Chiefs fans hate on, and specifically in the media, but I think he's been pretty good. You know, he does get lost in coverage, but he's a guy that he's such a sure tackler. And I think that, you know, we already have Anthony Hitchens as middle linebacker. Once he kind of finds a different role or maybe gets benched and Nick Bolton can become the starting middle linebacker, he's not going to have to drop back in coverage as much. So I think that that's going to be a really good pickup as well. But, you know, Cornell Powell, actually isn't on the squad. He's on the practice squad. And that infuriated me, because it's just like, why'd you spend a 5th-round draft pick on a guy that wasn't going to make the team? Like, it didn't make sense. And, you know, the Chiefs had so many other needs, and receiver was one of them. But, I mean, have you seen the defense recently? Like, that would have been a really good pickup. And it's just like they whiffed on the defensive pieces.
Wait, who did you want? I missed who did you want? I'm sorry.
I just wanted more defensive pieces.
Oh, just defenses in general. Okay, I thought you said a specific name. Okay, no, go ahead.
will say, though, in the 6th round, we've got Trey Smith, who's our starting right guard right now. He's been phenomenal. He's been a really, really good pickup. He's been starting. He took that job over in camp, and we have LDT and Kyle Long, and Trey Smith's just been better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually did. We're gonna get into that a little bit. Oh, sorry. You there?
No, you're good. Yeah,
sorry, we went into no worries. But no, we are going to get into that a little, because those are the two that I happened to look up their PFF grades, and yeah, they're pretty. One of them was like an 87 or something insane like that. So I don't even remember which one now. But the other one was like a high 60s, which was great for a rookie. So whichever one was which, still, it may have been Creed Humphrey, the 2nd-round pick's an 87. It may have been. I don't remember, though. But anyway, that's awesome. So, okay, so interesting that, that's funny, because that's one of the few names I knew, and it's like, oh, wait, no, Cornell Powell is not even really on the team. So, hey, we wasted our 5th-round pick as well. So, Derek Forrest is an absolute bust the day we drafted him. The only reason I just, had some sort of hope is kind of like your Kane Doe thing. The dude runs a 4.3, 40-yard dash. The guy's a really great athlete at a safety, but he sucks at safety. You put on the film, and you're like, why? And they were like, oh, he's a special teamer. Great. I'm glad we traded or got a 5th-round pick when we needed a safety. And we instead got a guy that's going to be a special teamer. And, of course, it is panned out that we really need a safety. We'll get into more of that, of course, later.
How do you feel about Jamin Davis? Because I scouted him, and I thought that he was a 2nd-round draft pick, but he's got a lot of talent. And then didn't you guys draft Samuel Cosmi?
Yes, we did draft Samuel Cosmi. And Samuel Cosmi's been great. Samuel has been great. I wasn't sure. I thought he may need a year just because, it seemed like he needed to hit the weight room, because he seemed to get pushed back in the pocket a lot when the games that I watch. I like to watch your games against your top 3 opponents. I don't have time to watch every single game on all these guys, so I watch the games versus the top 3 opponents, and especially I think it was against Oklahoma. He was getting shoved back in the pocket all game long. But hey, I'm happy to report that he's actually been playing really well. One of the highest grade tackles in this draft right now. So, I liked the pick. I graded it an A for Sam Cosmi, but I thought he was going to need a little bit of time. But I was wrong on that one, which is nice.
He's just so versatile. I wanted him coming out of coming out of college. I thought maybe spending a 1st-round draft pick on him.
Oh, fair enough. Well, that has shown to be. I think he would have been worth it. He's more worth it than Jamin Davis, as you asked about Jamin. Jamin, if you go back, I made a video on it as well, and I talked about, of course, how athletic he is. I talked about that I wasn't thrilled with the pick. All right, and even on the day after the draft, I made a video saying this. And I also looked into him prior to the draft because we really needed linebacker help. So he was projected, as you said, like a second-round pick. Obviously, athletic freak, ran a sub 4.4. He's 6'3.5", 235 pounds. Everything you would want in a linebacker, except when you put on the tape, I've seen him miss some tackles. He doesn't seem to be aggressive in the run game. He has good coverage ability, but that's only half of the. Honestly, that's probably less than half of a linebacker spot. More is trying to get into the run game, fill your gaps, fill your holes, and read your keys and go through that. So, honestly, he only played 13 snaps last game. Ron Rivera was asked about this. He wasn't even a part of the game plan. When Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill are their best players, and you have a coverage linebacker that you drafted in the first round, and he's not even a part of the game plan. I made a video going off on a rant on that. I couldn't believe it's like, how is he not? And of course, Alvin Kamara has like 122 yards from scrimmage, and you're like, okay, awesome. So I wasn't thrilled with the pick. The only optimism I had was he is an athletic freak. He's being coached by Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, two former linebackers, and then of course he's going behind what I thought was the best defensive line in football. So I thought, like, if there was a place that he could succeed, it would be here in Washington. And unfortunately, the rest of our defense has been dog crap. So he hasn't gotten that protection that I thought he would have on his rookie year. But we'll see how he pans out. So far, you would definitely say you're not happy with how he's going. But as I said, we'll see how it goes. Just a quick grade. Like, how would you grade this offseason for Kansas City? Like, in a letter grade or so.
I'm gonna give it a C+.
C+.
And let me explain why. They addressed the offensive line. They overhauled that. Fantastic. And this has come to light recently to me. Everybody talks in the Super Bowl that, if the Chiefs had a healthy offensive line, we see a different game. And I do agree it's going to be a game that's much, much closer. But you also got to keep in mind, Chiefs defense, I don't even know what the final score was. Like, I watched it all, but I didn't really want to pay attention to the score. I know they put up at least 30.
38-20.
30. No. I'm talking about the Super Bowl that we lost.
Oh, 31-9.
31-9. They put up 31 points.
Yeah.
That defense wasn't good. And, it's all because they cannot get pressure. 25% of our cap is going to our defensive line. And those are paying guys like Chris Jones, Chris Jones. But Frank Clark is one of the worst defensive ends in the game of football. And we are paying him to be elite. And he's not done anything. You'd have the same amount of production if you threw me out there. And I'm being 100% serious. He's been very, very bad. So it's just like you can't get any pressure whatsoever. They tried to address this by drafting Kane Doe in the 4th round. They drafted a guy by Mike Dana in the 5th round last year. He was a Michigan guy, but wasn't good in college. He had some good athleticism, I guess, that made him a 5th round draft pick. And he's all right. Like, he's got 3 sacks this year. But if you've watched a Chiefs game, he's not getting consistent pressure. He's the guy that could come off the bench and give you something. But, the Chiefs don't have any way of applying pressure outside of blitzes. And that is why this defense is horrid. Like, I think that, they didn't really do anything in the secondary, any additions. And they upgraded at linebacker, I'd say, with Nick Bolton. But the defensive line, it wasn't great to begin with, but somehow they got worse. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel you on the defensive line thing. Yeah. So, but no, okay. So a C+ overall for your offseason, you think?
Yeah.
Honestly, mine was like a C- D+ because our quarterback is Ryan Fitzpatrick going into the year. So how highly can you grade a team's offseason with that? But anyway, thank you, Amon Brown, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. If Turner runs the ball more, we would be an effective way to neutralize or slow down Mahomes and company. We'll definitely get more into that when we get into the pregame preview. But thanks again so much for the super chat. All right, let's see here. I'm going to ask you about the start of the season as well.
Yeah.
And actually, let's go ahead and get into that right now. So the Chiefs currently sit at 2-3, as well as the Washington football team. You barely get by the Browns, which, granted, Browns are a tough team, fantastic roster, but you do get by. A tough loss to the Ravens, could have won if it wasn't for Clyde the Glide fumbling. Lost in dramatic fashion to the Chargers, interception that turned into a touchdown for Herbert and company. Take care of the Eagles on the road, and then you get beat down by the Bills. And you said something in one of I watched one of your videos, I believe it's the recap against the Bills. You said something that we in Washington can completely relate to. Because this defense was supposed to be elite, right? Elite. And you said, it's really sad to see a team that I believe has a lot of talent not live up to expectations, is the exact quote.
Yep.
So how do you feel, going with that, how do you feel about the start of your season? And I know a lot of people talk poorly about your defense, but looking at it, you've played some really good offenses.
We have.
So how do you feel about the start of this season?
I think we played great offenses. We played the Browns playoff team. We played the Bills playoff team, Ravens playoff team, Chargers probably going to win this division. So 4 playoff teams out of your 5 games, it's pretty impressive. But the thing is this Chiefs defense is giving up 32.6 points per game, which is like on pace, I think, or already is the NFL or the worst in NFL history. I understand that you're going up against good offenses, but they can't stop anything. And it's because they cannot put the right guys in the position to succeed. I think that if you saw that Sunday night game, there's a guy by the name of Daniel Sorensen who got burned on 2 straight touchdowns by the Bills. Tyrann Mathieu just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, Dan Sorensen just completely gave up on one play, and then he's just nowhere around Dawson Knox. So it's just like, there's other guys you could be playing that are going to be better than Dan Sorensen, who in my opinion is probably the worst safety in the league, maybe one of the worst NFL players in the league. But, you know, I don't understand, and this is what I've been trying to ask myself. You went from not having an elite defense, obviously, last year. You got like probably 17, 19. It wasn't great, but it was good enough to win. This defense didn't have that much turnover, and they got significantly worse. And I don't understand why. You added Jerron Reed. You're getting guys back. You added Mike Hughes. The only significant loss that I can really think of was Bashaud Breeland. And from what I've heard from Vikings fans, this guy's getting burned like toast every Sunday. So I don't know.
Everything you just said, change Sorensen for Landon Collins, and everything else could be the exact same. Because you talk about how you guys are giving up 32.6. We're giving up like 31.9. We're right behind you with how bad. And talk about, I mean, we have a Jack Del Rio who's led 2 defenses to top 2 performances with Von Miller and Khalil Mack back in the Raiders and the Broncos. We have Ron Rivera, known as the defense, 2015 Carolina guy. We have 4 first-round picks on the defensive line. We signed another first-round pick in Will Jack. We have another, well, he was the first pick of the second round, so basically a first-round pick in Landon Collins. Jamin Davis, first-round linebacker. Kendall Fuller was supposedly one of the best slot corners. I know
Kendall Fuller well.
Of course. Yes, of course. We traded for Alex Smith with you guys. That's right. You stole from us. No, honestly, Alex Smith was great here. He's just unfortunate injury.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is insane. Like, but you guys, like, you know, not to be insulting, but you guys kind of expected it. Like, you're right. Your defense wasn't supposed to be a great defense. Am I wrong? Like,
I expected it to be average to below average. I didn't.
Sorry. You never expect to average 32.6. As I said,
no.
Again, of course not that. But it's like the fact that you are giving up a lot of points is not necessarily like our defense. Like, we were supposed to be a top 3 defense.
Yeah, your squad last year, that defense were killers.
Right. Like Chase Young, Montez Sweat, supposed to be the best pass rush duo in football. Like, you have 3 beasts in the middle. Matt Ioannidis, we're getting back. We didn't even have him all last year. He got hurt in like week 2. So Matt Ioannidis coming back, who was like leading the team in sacks if you put it in like the last 5 years. You got Jonathan Allen, first round pick. Deron Payne. Yeah, it's and that's why I just sat back and laughed, because I'm just hearing you talk about your defense, and I'm like, wow, am I talking to a Skins fan right now? And he accidentally said Sorensen instead of Landon Collins. No, that's hysterical. And but no, I completely understand. And then this is kind of a meme question, and I just want to say it anyway. Is the league figuring out Pat Mahomes?
No. And let me explain why. I'll look at Instagram posts, and they're like, oh, you know, this is what they got to do to beat Mahomes. This has been going on since 2018. This has been going on for a long time. Here's the thing, and someone said this on a local radio show in Kansas City, and I completely agree with it. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is going out every Sunday on every drive and trying to score 21 points in one possession. It's because he knows this defense is going to give up 35 points a game.
Yeah.
The pressure for the offense to be
Hey,
perfect.
It's 32.6. Don't exaggerate.
Yeah, well, they're giving up a lot more. But
no, I get it. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. It's just like the pressure on this offense to be absolutely perfect every week is why he's throwing more interceptions. Keep in mind, this dude's got 17 touchdowns through 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Like, he's still balling. It's just the interceptions are up because he's having to force stuff because he has to be perfect. And I think that, he's never going to come out and say, hey, this defense sucks. But realistically,
hey, this defense sucks.
Yeah, realistically, he knows that he's got to be near perfect in order to win. And they just haven't been.
No, and of course, I think that's a meme question. People will say something of like, oh, he got shut down in the Super Bowl. It's like, I have never been more impressed by an offense that has scored 9 points in my entire life. Like, the things that Pat Mahomes was doing is insane. He literally, parallel to the ground, hits a dude in the face.
It's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Greatest throw I've ever seen.
And it was dropped. Like, it hit him
square
in the eyes.
Hit him in the helmet.
Square in the eyes. And yeah, so to hear people think the league is figuring out Pat Mahomes. My dad can be a hater like that in some ways. I love my dad, obviously, but he can, when he hates the Ravens. Just hates them because we're battle the beltways. So he hates Lamar Jackson, obviously, because he's making the Ravens better. And they lost to the Titans in the playoffs a couple years ago. And he's like, oh yeah, they figured him out. I'm looking at the stat sheet. I'm like, Dad, he had 500 total yards of offense by himself. Yeah, I don't think anybody figured him. He was 300 and some yards, 370 yards throwing and 120 yards rushing. And it's like, oh, the Titans figured him out. Yeah, okay. No, anyway, as I said, meme question, but of course not. I 1,000% agree. Mahomes, in my opinion, I love the dude, and I think he's the best player in the league.
I do too.
All right, let's go ahead and hop into the preview for Kansas City here. Or for us versus Kansas City. I like to start this portion of it. What is an outsider's opinion from you on the Washington football team? When you hear Washington, what do you think of? And how does it could be as a historical thing or as just a going into this league thing?
In recent memory, when I think of Washington, I think of a team with a stout defense, and I also think of a team that usually is missing that piece on the offensive side, like the quarterback. If you guys just had that quarterback, because the quarterback really solves a lot of the problems. It really does. Having a great
you figured that out firsthand. Yeah.
It can mask some things. And really quickly, not trying to go off on a tangent, I think that's the biggest problem with Brett Veach and some of the moves that he's made is I think he's Patrick Mahomes is going to be that guy. And he can mask some of the deficiencies, but he can't mask everything. He can't possibly deal with everything. He can deal with throwing to Byron Pringle, a UDFA, but he can't deal with having the league's worst defense. It's just there's got to be some give, and I think that's one thing. But getting back to it, I think of Washington as a team that for sure used to have a very good defense. Like I said, last year, I watched that Steelers and Washington game because I needed the Steelers to lose. And when you guys upset them with Alex Smith, I was just like, I love this team right now because it was such a great game. But I think that honestly, my thoughts on them right now is that, Fitzpatrick can win any game at any given Sunday. And it's just because he has that ability. So it'll be interesting to see how we perform against you guys. And I think I said this in my recap video with the Bills. If we don't make the adjustments that we need to make on defense, I hope Washington absolutely kills us. I hope you beat us by 4 touchdowns. I really do. Because what's the point of winning this game against Washington if you play the exact same? There is no point. You're going to become complacent and just think, all right, we beat Washington. We can do it against a good team. And in reality, you can't.
Yeah, Mahomes is a beast. If they build his defense to average, he'll win 5 Super Bowls. I agree with that. He's been in the last 2, went to the AFC Championship the year before that, and a nail-biter. One of the best games of football I've ever watched between you guys and the Patriots.
It's funny, that 2018 Chiefs defense, that's always been the bar because it was so incredibly bad. this is worse than that. This is worse than what we saw in 2018. In 2018, they could get after the quarterback. They can't do anything this year. So
I feel you.
see.
All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and start this matchup. And it seems like a big thing that's going to happen in this matchup is injuries. I know you guys got banged up. For us, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick's still on IR. We have Taylor Heineke, which honestly I prefer. But Logan Thomas, our number one tight end, is out on IR for a few weeks. Brandon Sheriff is questionable. Our starting right guard, our right tackle just got hurt, and he's probably out because he rolled his ankle pretty bad. We have... Let's see here. Antonio Gibson is questionable right now. Curtis Samuel got re-injured again. Jonathan Allen is also questionable. Cole Holcomb, our starting linebacker that's played 100% of snaps and basically every game, is now questionable. So that's ours. A few others here and there that aren't as critical, but still, that's a lot. And then over here on your side of the football, and you can tell me what you think if these guys should play or what you're hearing over in your world. Tyreek Hill is questionable right now. Chris Jones is questionable. Clyde the Glide, you guys put on IR.
Yeah.
Yep. Joe Tooney is questionable right now, and Travis Kelce is questionable. How are you feeling about these injuries going in? You think they'll play, or do you think they're going to miss some time?
I think there's a couple guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they sat out. Like, Joe Tooney actually played the entire. I guess he broke his hand on the first possession of the game. So he played the entire game, and I thought he played pretty well. I didn't even know his hand was broke until the end of the game. So
yeah,
I thought he was all right. He could play, but we got so much depth on the offensive line, they might just sit him. Tyreek Hill, he's had some drops recently, and he's looked frustrated. I wouldn't be surprised if they sat him out. I can think of how Travis Kelce got hurt. The Bills defender went in with a shoulder pad and nailed him in the head with 4 minutes left in the game. We're down by 18 points at this point, and he just went head hunting basically. So
that sucks.
I don't know if he'll play. I would assume that he will. Andy Reid described it as a stinger. That's what
I'm reading is a little bit of a stinger. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah,
Andy, can you elaborate on that? What does that what does that mean? Concussion? I think that he'll probably play, but
usually I know in my experience with asking trainers and with my football, a stinger is usually a shoulder thing.
Interesting.
It's relative to a shoulder. I went up to the trainer. It's I got a stinger on my, and she's like, where? And I was like, on my hip, and she was like, nobody calls that a stinger. So I guess she was kind of made fun of me. But anyway, so I guess it's usually a shoulder. I don't know. Maybe if he he got hit in the head, maybe a shoulder thing kind of popped in or something like that. So usually it's a shoulder when they talk about stinger, but at the same time, he could just be saying anything to get you, or get the media to shut up.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just don't ask me anymore. It's a stinger.
I wouldn't be surprised if he sat out though.
Yeah,
we'd be pretty strapped for offensive weapons though. Maybe we see a Josh Gordon game, which I'm sure we'll get into that later. But
honestly, I forgot. I didn't bring that up. Josh Gordon. What do you think about that move?
Honestly, that was a good move. I've always been well, if he can stay on the field and not get suspended again, he's a good fit. For depth on this wide receiver core, because besides Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman's kind of been a bust. I talked about Byron Pringle earlier. He's a UDFA that's surpassed expectations. He's made the team, but he's a UDFA for a reason. And Demarcus Robinson, I don't know why he's a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. He is known for catching the ball, and instead of running forwards, he likes to cut it back like Tyreek Hill tries to, but he doesn't have the speed to. So he just gets dropped 5 to 10 yards back to where he could have just ran forward and got the easy first down. So I think Josh Gordon's addition was very, very nice.
Fair enough. Yeah, if he could say, because he's only, I think, 30?
Yeah. 31, 30, maybe 30, 31.
I think he was 30. I was surprised when somebody told, the Blitz Predicts, I actually saw you here. Thanks for stopping by. Cards in the mail. Appreciate it. He was saying, he was off the top of your head, how old do you think Josh Gordon is? I think I guessed 32, and I think he said he was only 30. So I guess he has a couple good years left, and we'll see. Obviously, if he can go anything close to the Browns, he's going to be a stud.
Goodness.
But we'll see if he's obviously in a great situation with Pat Mahomes. But all right, cool. So you think Kelce might sit out, but the Hill and Jones, did you say you think they will probably play?
I think they're going to try to get Jones to play. I don't know, though. They might sit him, too. I think I'm more firm. I think Tyreek might sit, and they might play Kelce.
Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah, because I think I heard as well through the grapevine that Hill's not expected to miss time, but you never know.
Yeah.
He has a quad injury right now. Okay.
Okay.
Sweet. All right, so going into this game, what scares you about the Washington football team?
Your offense against our defense. Your offense might not be great, but our defense is horrible. Like, I think you guys are going to be able to move the ball at will, and I think that you're going to be able to put points up on the board. And if we can't stop your offense, I mean, it's going to be a track meet. You've talked about your defense. I've talked about my defense. We both know they aren't very good. So it's going to be a battle of the offenses, I guess. But like I said, I just want to see our defense step up somewhat. But your offense scares me because, you do have scary Terry McLaurin, and you drafted a wide receiver this year that I really liked.
De'Ami Brown.
Yeah. Has he been good?
No.
Okay.
To be honest, he has not lived up to expectations. A lot of Skins fans loved that one coming out. I also think, he's questionable right now. He missed last week, so we'll see if he will play. But he's had a couple of drops. He's not really getting separation. It's not been a great start for his rookie campaign, if we're being honest. But he's young. We'll see if he can step up. I know a lot of people liked him, but so far it has not worked out like we wanted.
Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, you guys got a lot of offensive weapons. Is it going to be Taylor Heineke as the quarterback?
Yes.
He's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. I watched that playoff game, and in hindsight, I really wish you'd have beat the Bucs because you'd have saved us a lot of heartbreak. But I think that Taylor, if he can get outside the pocket, you mentioned your injuries along the offensive line. I'm gonna be honest with you. We went up against a Ravens offensive line that in week 2 was missing their left tackle and Ronnie Stanley. They had to move over what's his name? Steelers Villanueva. They moved him to left tackle the previous week, and he was horrible. Like, he was really, really bad. And so I'm like, all right, this defensive line might feast. They didn't. I don't know if they had a sack the entire game. And then in week 4, when we played the Eagles, their offensive line was like down 4 or 5 starters. And you got like 2 sacks. And they all came at the end of the game, and one of them came off a blitz. So it's just like this defensive line is not going to provide any pressure. I think he's going to have time to sit back there. And like I've been saying for weeks, if you give any quarterback in the National Football League enough time to find his receiver, he's going to do it. There's a reason why he's in the NFL. And that's concerning to me.
Fair enough. But yeah, as far as Taylor Heineke goes, we call it over here in Washington territory the legend of Heineke. It grows, right? Of course, it took a hit this last week. He had 2 interceptions. He had his worst game, arguably, in the burgundy and gold on Sunday. He and I went through the film, and I actually made a whole thing about it because a lot of people are hating on our offensive coordinator, Scott Turner. They really just like to beat him down. And I went through, and I'm like, dudes, there's open receivers that Heineke are just not locating. Like, I don't know why. Like, and some of these designs are really awesome in what he's trying to do. Like, I could go into, like, one example was like in a red zone, and you guys know all sorts of great red zone plays with Andy Reid and company. But and one in particular is we had 2 receivers on each side. On the right side, he looks to the right. Both of them run hitch routes. Saints are playing zone, so everybody bites on the hitch, and he has a receiver coming across from the other side, and the back of the end zone's wide open, and the receiver, all he needs to do is float it to the back corner of the end zone, and it's a touchdown. And for some reason, he never locates the dude, and he never throws the football, and you're just like, Dax Milne, that was the design. There's the play. Throw it, and he beat his man. So it's just little things like that you just want to pull your hair out. Like, Heineke needs to locate these dudes and make the play caller make the play caller look as good as I think he's actually playing. I don't think he's Andy Reid, but I think he's good. I think he's a good play caller for us. But anyway, that's just one example. We'll see how Taylor Heineke plays. But yeah, he's definitely interesting to watch, at the very least. The mobility in the pocket, the what do you call it? Like the gamer in him. The ability to just take over a game, and not the same way as Pat Mahomes because he has a beam as strong as an arm, but it's just he doesn't take no for an answer. He's just going to try to do whatever the heck he can do, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. All right. What is your most interesting matchup going into this game? And of course, I know you said the offense defense, but if you can get maybe a little bit more specific in that case, or what do you think the most interesting matchup, or if it's the defense, if it's your defense or your offense, whatever you think is the most interesting matchup going into this game?
I'm going to say I want to see how our offensive line goes up against your defensive line. I know how you said that, they weren't great to start the season, but I still see guys like Montez Sweat, and I see Chase Young. They're gamers. Like they're going to find a way to at least get home. They might not be getting sacks, but they're going to get home. And it's something our Chiefs defensive line can't do. But our offensive line's improved, but Orlando Brown has been a little bit shaky. Like you can still get to the quarterback a couple times. And he's been getting called for a lot of penalties recently. So it's just like if our offensive line can stop your defensive line and give Mahomes that extra time, I think he's going to be in a good position to win.
All right, cool. So the trenches on the offense defense. Okay, sounds good.
How about you?
My most interesting matchup is I'm curious on how you guys are going to handle our scary Terry McLaurin. Last week, the Saints did a great job with Marshawn Lattimore, but people think that Marshawn Lattimore shut down Terry McLaurin. Marshawn Lattimore pretty much had a safety over top the entire game. So they basically asked Marshawn to cover everything underneath, which Marshawn Lattimore is a fantastic corner. If you take away the threat of the deep ball with Terry McLaurin, he's going to feast underneath because he's got the speed, he's got the size to be able to come up. So I don't know who your top corner is right now. I know Tyrann Mathieu is in the safety, but I don't think anybody on your team can shut down Terry, because honestly, I don't think there's very many, if any, that can shut down Terry McLaurin. So I'm curious on how much attention do you put on Terry McLaurin? Just to give an example, last week, it was hilarious. We were on 4th and 14, and we run 3 verts on the left side, and Terry kind of just sits his vert down in the middle of the field, and DeAndre Carter comes over top of him wide open, and you look at the replay, there is 3 Saints defenders touching Terry McLaurin. Not just in the vicinity, like standing next to, touching. That's how much attention they were giving Terry McLaurin on that particular play and throughout. So I'm curious. That's my matchup that I'm curious with Mr. Scary Terry.
I can only
who's
think
the corner? Yeah,
maybe L'Jarius Sneed. He was really, really good last year. He was a 4th-round draft pick, and he surpassed expectations. Was a legitimate elite last year. But this year he's taken a little bit of a step back. I think it's really hard to be as good as he was last year consistently. But he's still a reliable option. But outside of him, you traded for a guy by the name of Mike Hughes. His PFF grade's good, but he's just not. If you watch the games, he gets. I think he allows a catch 75% of the time. So I don't think it's going to be him. I don't know if you mentioned Travarius Ward may or may not play in this game. He's been injured for a couple weeks now. So
yeah, I think I did see him on the thing. To me, and you can tell me about. To me, I didn't view that as a huge hit. But do you think that's a big hit to your defense?
It's he's not great, but he's better than the options we have.
Okay.
So
I got
so
you.
I guess he's somewhat of a. I guess it's not even really if Travarius Ward doesn't play, it's not the end of the world. But having somebody, because they're probably gonna have to put 2 guys on Terry, or at least have. I don't know if he's going to command Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu usually goes with the tight end, but I know you kind of talked about how Logan Thomas is hurt. So I don't know if you're going to have that physical tight end threat that would need Tyrann Mathieu. But with how bad the back end of this defense is going to be, I almost don't want Tyrann to play up in the box. I want him to be back there and to be that deep safety. But honestly, I think that L'Jarius Sneed's probably the best bet to guard Scary Terry, but I think that Terry's going to get his, and that's just kind of what we got to live with.
Yep. He wants me to Yin Yang Experience wants me to ask if Fuller is a better free safety or corner in your opinion. Oh, thanks for the super chat. I was going to read your question, and then you super chatted anyway. Thank you so much for the super chat, and but really appreciate it. But anyway, so the floor is yours. What's your answer there?
We saw him play a lot of free safety in Kansas City. In 2019, we drafted Juan Thornhill, who had legitimate like defensive rookie of the year potential, and then in week 17 he tore his ACL, and he really hasn't been the same. I think there was a big mental roadblock that he had to get over, and for some odd reason, he's got the talent. You saw it like in one of the games when the Chiefs defense couldn't tackle anybody. This dude lunges, picks the dude up in the air, and slams him into the ground, and then he just runs off the field like, all right, he tackled somebody, so we can't have him on the field. But we haven't seen him. He should be starting, but he's not. But when we did draft Juan Thornhill, Fuller wasn't really that guy anymore. But honestly, I thought that he was a really good free safety. We didn't see him a ton at corner, but, I think that he's honestly a guy that was pretty good in Kansas City. He went underappreciated for sure.
Wait, Fuller played more free safety for you guys?
Yeah, I believe so.
I didn't even know that. For some reason, I didn't even know that.
Because in 2019, we had Bashad Breeland on one side, and then I want to say Travarius Ward or who was the other guy that we had? Because honestly, Fuller was on the bench a lot. He really was.
Oh, okay.
So,
interesting. Okay, yeah. Interesting. Fair enough. Man, we paid him a lot of money. We paid him like $40 million or something like that to come back to play for us. I thought he was actually decent over there for you guys, but that's interesting. I didn't look into it. I just knew that we loved him before he left and figured you guys used him. So interesting. All right.
He wasn't bad. He definitely wasn't bad, but he wasn't. I don't think he's worth $40 million.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Interesting. You know what? Before we move on, I'm just curious. Where do you rate Terry amongst the receivers as an outside? Like in an honest thing, like not just like where. And I'm not gonna rip you apart or anything. I'm just curious where you rank Terry McLaurin as an outsider in like the top receivers.
He's top 15 for sure.
Okay.
See, it's tough because like there's a lot of receivers that like have that that prestige and like they're elite. Mm-hmm. Michael Thomas is not that guy anymore. Like I think that he's somebody that's he's still in the top 5. No, he's not. Michael Thomas is not that elite anymore. So honestly, it's tough to say because like I've also seen some guys emerge. Like I haven't really watched a ton of their games, but I know Justin Jefferson is a monster, and I think that that's just kind of what we're seeing around the league. A lot of these receivers are getting a much bigger shot at succeeding, and I think that McLaurin is definitely in the top 15. I'd say 11 or 12. He could be in the top 10 if I actually went through and counted receivers. But he's for sure a guy that you got to look at because he will hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's cool. I'm just because Terry doesn't get the national recognition yet, and a big thing about it is he hasn't had consistent quarterback play. It's crazy. He's averaging like a new quarterback like every 3.5 games is as a starting receiver. So
that's so difficult to adjust to.
Exactly. And he had 1,000 yards last year, like 1,100 yards last year, and then he had 900 and something. He would have had 1,000 if he didn't get hurt in the last 2 games, where he ended up sitting in a 3-13 year that we didn't feel the need to pull through. He was actually hurt later in the last season as well, like 2 rolled ankles I think he said he had, but he played through it because we're in a playoff hunt and he ended up playing in the playoff game, so he's got a little BA in him, But no, I think so much of Terry McLaurin. I think he can be Antonio Brown without the crazy. Like I think he has that much ability in him. He runs a 4.35. He's got a phenomenal route running. Like there's a video out there of like him versus Stephon Gilmore in Terry's rookie year, and Stephon Gilmore won Defensive Player of the Year that season. And Terry gave him a run for his money the entire game. It was awesome. So I think he's that good. Nobody nationally knows it yet because he has no quarterback. So he's not getting those huge Tyreek Hill style numbers, 225 yards, 3 touchdowns or something like that. So it's very interesting. The Real Cigar, Jeff, thank you so much for the super chat. No note, but thank you so much for the super chat. All right, cool. All right, on to the next question. Give me an offensive and a defensive player to look out for on the Chiefs. And this could go 2 different, or whatever direction you want. This could be a guy maybe not a lot of people have heard of, and you want to like mention that maybe he'll step up in this game, or it's a guy that people have heard of, but you think is going to really have a phenomenal game this game. So give me an offensive and defensive player.
Offensive, I want to go with, a guy that maybe no one's really heard of, and I'm not predicting him to have like a great game.
Okay.
But, I think Darrell Williams could have a really, really good game because he's going to be taking a glide. And I think that, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are questionable and they're not going to be really playing at 100%. It's going to be feed Darrell the rock, or maybe even Jerick McKinnon could have a really good game. I'm kind of hesitant to say Josh Gordon yet because I want to see him get a few more weeks under his belt with this offense. And then defensively.
So Darrell Williams is your guy to look out for.
Offensive player. And defensively, there's so many players I could say watch out for because they're not going to be any good. But defensively, wow.
Nobody.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, it's just like pick your poison. A guy that I thought performed really, really well last week, and he's never. I don't even know if you'll know who he is.
Okay.
But his name is Rashad Fenton. And Fenton's a guy.
I've heard the name, yeah.
Very, very physical. Like, he just provides that physicality. And I thought he was our best corner last week. There was a couple times where he would just swat the ball down in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's a guy, they would not have him going up against Terry McLaurin one-on-one. But he's a guy that, with his level of physicality, he's going to provide some problems for your other receivers. And he had a pick last week that if Frank Clark didn't get a roughing the passer, it would have been a turnover. But I think Rashad Fenton's probably my defensive player.
All right, so Fenton and Williams. Did you say this may have slid by me? Did you say Kelsey's lost a step?
No.
Oh, okay, so I'm not sure who said that. Okay, no worries. I don't think anybody thinks that. So, all right, yeah, that would have been interesting. Sometimes I can be terrible about. I want to listen, and then I'm trying to read chat at the same time, and I'm usually horrible at it. I think I'm doing okay today because I didn't think that you.
I get the struggle. You gotta do a lot of.
I didn't think you said that Kelsey lost a step.
You also got to think of the next question. There's so much stuff that you got to think of at once.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, cool. All right, so for me, and I said this guy last week, and honestly, he didn't show up like huge. He did have the 4th and 14th catch, but there was a play that he really could have broken off if it wasn't tipped at the line. And it's a guy that's very interesting. It's DeAndre Carter. And a lot of Skins fans didn't even want this guy coming out. Nobody was really projecting him to make the team. And he really only made the team because of his ability to do kickoff and punt return. And he had that kickoff return for a touchdown against Atlanta. That was phenomenal. And he also had like a 24-yard play on a 3rd down that was huge. And so Scott Turner kind of talked him up as a guy that, hey, with all these injuries at receiver, this guy could really step up. And he has a phenomenal burst about him. I don't know what his 40-yard time is, but he's one of those guys that you watch and you're like, that was quick. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as he catches it and just takes it upfield, you're like, okay, this guy has some game speed. Whether or not he tested well doesn't matter. You see it.
It's different when the pads are on. It's different.
Exactly. So keep an eye out for DeAndre Carter. Honestly, I don't even remember his number off the top of my head. It doesn't matter. But keep an eye out for DeAndre Carter. And then defensively, this is a name that everybody's going to know. But you know what? I'm going to come out here and say, I know you already talked up your dudes. This is what I wanted to talk about is I think Deron Payne is going to need to have a big impact on this game. Of course, 1st-round pick. Everybody knows who Deron Payne is. But with Thuney having his broken hand, and you have 2 rookies on the inside that I know are doing well. As I said, I looked up the PFFs, and I know they're doing well. But Deron Payne, an experienced 1st-round pick, he's also, I don't know where he is on pressures, but he's got to be up there in the league on pressures. This dude is a beast in the middle. And him and Jonathan Allen have a great chemistry of setting each other up, especially Jonathan Allen taking on the double team and letting Deron Payne come around getting a sack. I think Deron Payne, if we have any chance of winning this football game or stopping your offense, I think he is going to have a big impact on this football game. So look out for Deron Payne and DeAndre Carter. And yours were Fenton and Darrell Williams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Darrell Williams, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because Damian Williams went to Chicago.
Yeah, I wish we had Damian Williams. we had Darrell Williams, our running back, Damian Williams, a running back, and then Damian Wilson, linebacker.
Thanks, everybody. DeAndre Carter's number 1. All right, awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and hop into our keys to victory. Do you want me to go first, or you want to go first for your team?
You should go ahead because there's a lot to this.
All right, sweet. Sounds good. No problem. I can go first for the first time yet? I asked the Ross last week for a Saints fan, and he said he wanted to go first, so no worries. All right, here we go. I wrote these down. All right. So, number one is the bend, don't break philosophy. Of course, we gave up 2 huge plays last week, a 72-yard bomb and a 49-yard touchdown right before half, Hail Mary style. Chiefs have turned the ball over amongst the most in the league. Are you guys number one right now?
Tied for the worst of the
Tied for the worst, yeah. So I knew it was high. I didn't actually look up exactly what ranking, but yeah, so tied for the most. So don't give up the big play. Let Pat Mahomes, who, as Michael has said, trying to do too much, let him make a mistake. That leads into another one. I was going to say, capitalize on every single mistake that Mahomes makes. He's not going to make many. All right? He's not. I know even if he's trying to do too much, he's not going to make many. Most of the teams so far have capitalized on those mistakes. We have to capitalize on every single one of those he makes. Get the interception, get the sack fumble, whatever. Make it happen. So those are 2. The last one for the defense is third down defense. I don't know if you looked up how bad our third down defense is, and I don't know what it's right after last week because we went 4 for 11 last week, but we were giving up 59.6% on third down. Like, it was outrageous, our third down, giving it up. And but even though we went only 4 for 11 and the percentage was better last week, we gave up 2 touchdowns on third down. So the 72-yard bomb was on third down, and another touchdown later was on third down. So we got to get better about the third downs. And then I'm going to say win the time of possession game. All right? We did last week and lost, but I think this game is much more critical. The more opportunities you give for Pat Mahomes, the more opportunities you're going to get your butt beat. And then the last one for me is Heineke needs to protect the football. I know technically he only has 5 interceptions on the year so far. This guy's thrown more than that, and they've just been dropped. He threw 3 interceptions against Atlanta that were all dropped. So on the stat sheet, it says 0 interceptions. He's got to get better about protecting the football and being that quote-unquote game manager that everybody hates to hear about. But he throws it way too often in some scary situations. And last week, it obviously hurt us big time. So those are my 5 keys to victory to beat the Chiefs. What do you got for the Chiefs?
It took me some time to come up with it because, we've been talking about the same thing over and over again. But, I agree with a lot of your points. You can't turn the ball over. That's my first key.
Yeah.
We are turning the ball over at a astounding rate, which is not Chiefs football. They have never done this in the past. 11 turnovers through 5 games of the season is horrendous. Mahomes has got like 6 interceptions. That's not good enough. But with the fumbling and all that taken into account, they've got to find a way to hold on to the football because you can't give other teams in the NFL with the worst defense another opportunity to score. It's not going to go well. And that leads into the next key. The defense is going to have to get off the field. And specifically, they're going to have to do it on third down. I agree a lot. There was a couple instances in the third quarter of the Bills game where they got a few stops. I think they got like 3 stops in a row, but the offense gave it right back to them. So it's just they got to find a way to get off the field. And they could not do that at all in the first half against the Bills. My third key is the Chiefs' offensive line has got to stop your pass rush. The bookends have actually really, really struggled. I've been talking about Orlando Brown Jr., but a guy that you might not even know, Lucas Niang has been very, very meh this season. He's been kind of worked by a lot of the different edge rushers. I remember it was Joey Bosa against the Chargers. He killed him. It was really bad. So it's just like give that extra time to Mahomes, which leads into my next key. Patrick Mahomes is going to have to be better when it comes to turning the ball over, when it comes to hitting his receivers. Teams are throwing at us the Tampa 2, the 2 deep safeties because they don't want to let some big play happen. And it's just like they're almost looking for that big play when all they got to do is take the underneath. Just throw it to a guy that is just going over the middle of the field. Just take the under. Why go for the over every play? Because it hasn't been working. So take the small stuff. And Mahomes is also, I don't know if you watched that Bills game. He missed a lot of throws.
I watched up until the delay, and then I get up in the morning at 4:15 every morning. So I was like, all right, I'm calling it a night.
I was going to say, that was an hour and 15-minute delay, so I don't blame you at all. But he was hitting his receivers in his feet. So he's got to get the ball up a little bit. So I think Mahomes overall has got to be better. because this offense kind of lives or dies with how well Patrick Mahomes plays, and that's kind of how all offenses are. And then my fifth and final key is you got to force pressure, and I don't really have any confidence in this. I'm not going to lie. But
Yeah.
you talked about your offensive line deficiencies and the injuries that you have. This defensive line, if Chris Jones is playing, should get at least a couple sacks. And if you're not getting sacks, I don't measure how good a defensive line is by your sacks. I measure how good your defensive line is by the amount of consistent pressure. This Chiefs defensive line has not gotten consistent pressure. So I want to see what they do against this Washington football team offensive line. Like I said, I'd be lying if I said that I thought they were going to tear it up, but they could be better. And maybe just getting that one extra sack or that one extra pressure, that could be the difference in this game. Because I think that, with how bad both these defenses are, it might be whichever one comes up with the more stops, they're going to win this game.
Fair enough. Well, to spoil you a little bit, our replacement for Sam Cosmi is Cornelius Lucas, and he was actually our left tackle last year, and he played really well, stepping up for him. So, we actually did well on our offensive line to have good depth, because also our starting left guard last year was Wes Switcher, who is now also playing for the hurt Brandon Sheriff. So we had two starters from last year that were on the bench this year, now starting. Instead of on the left side, they're starting on the right side of the line, but they played both well last year. Like Switzer, I think, had like a 70 PFF or something like that. Like both of them played really stout. So, I would like to have the starters in there, obviously. Brandon Sheriff was an all-pro last season. He's been a Pro Bowler many, many years. I would love to have that rather than Wes, but Wes is still a solid guard. So I know in some scenarios, maybe like last year in your Super Bowl, like you guys lost some offensive line pieces, and that was critical going against that Tampa Bay defensive line. I don't think that that's going to be as critical. Just to give you, I guess, insider information over here.
Our defensive line's not good, so it's just like
yeah. Well, I guess my main thing of telling you that is don't be discouraged. I guess like you were with the other teams. I don't know. Maybe they have good offensive lines on their backups as well. These two guys that we're bringing in are actually really good backups. They started in the league last year and did sufficient at the starting jobs that they ended up getting. Okay. So don't be too discouraged. And then of course our left side of the line has been our starters the whole way with Charles Leno, Eric Flowers. I almost said Brandon Flowers for some reason. Eric Flowers and Chase Rouillet. He's been our starting center for a while. All right, cool. Well then, that's but hey, all those keys definitely make sense because even though it is solid backups, getting pressure on the quarterback is always a good key to victory. All right, what is your score prediction going into this game?
I am so disappointed with this defense and how I think I'm just so low on them. I think we're going to win by a final score of 35-28.
35-28.
And I think it's because the offense is going to clean it up and they're not going to turn the ball over. But I think you're basically going to do whatever you want on offense. And, if you win the time of possession battle, you guys could definitely win this game. Like, no game that we have anymore is a layup. Like, I've kind of gone from last year, like, oh, this team is going to wipe the other one off the face of the planet, to this year, like, all right, that's not going to happen. Every game is a fight. So it doesn't have that invincible feeling like it did last year. They only lost 2 games, and they really only lost 1. They could have won that last one if they didn't sit all their starters. So this team is for sure different. But like I said earlier, if they don't give any adjustments on defense and they kind of come out and they just looked mediocre like they did last week, I hope you kill us. Because at that point, what is the goal in winning if you're not going to change? This team has got Super Bowl aspirations, and beating Washington by playing the same game you did last week. All right, a win's a win, but guys, I mean, a win is a win, but you're going to play teams like the Bills again, and you're not going to beat the Bills playing like you did against Washington if you don't change.
Right. I hear you. And unfortunately, though, I'm also going to give you guys the win. And you know what's funny is I asked my wife. My wife doesn't know anything about football. She was just having to stand there, and I was like, man, what do I want the score prediction to be? So I asked her, what do you think the score is going to be? And without her knowing, like, she knows it's the Skins, and she knows that we don't even have a good offense. But I don't even know if she knows that. She doesn't know much. And she goes, 42-37. I was like, that actually could be the final score of this game. I ended up saying 31-23 Chiefs. I think, I do think both offenses are going to move the ball, but I think there could be both offenses turning the ball over. So maybe even long drives that end up not turning into points. So even though there might be high totals of yards, I don't know how many points it's actually going to turn into. And so I'm going to say 31-23, Chiefs on top. I like to be the quote-unquote realist out here. I know all my fans over here are going to be hating on me. We got to win this game. We do have to win this game. I hope we win this game. We also have some off-the-field debacles going on. I know you heard about John Gruden that got cut. Well, that's being tied to Washington.
Yeah, I saw something that the FBI is rating the
and then
front
that's
offices.
a whole different debacle than the John Gruden thing. Our organization, talk about rotten from the core. I mean, it's just bad in there.
Really quickly, I wanted to ask you this: how do you feel about the name change? Not trying to get all if you don't want to answer it, I get that.
No, I don't have anything to hide. No, I hate the name change. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's stupid. You guys are probably next. Honestly, you guys are on the totem pole.
Like I said, I'll be banging the drum to burn the city down if that happens. So we'll see.
I mean, a lot of Skins fans, I think, gave it up because they're tired of the fight. Like, you guys are about to start into the fight basically brand new. Like this, I mean, it's like maybe some rumblings here or there, but you guys never really thought it was a consideration of the Chiefs' name being changed. Now, with Redskins being changed, now with the Indians being changed, like, there's now some real threat that you guys are going to go to. So you guys may have more fight left, or you should have more fight left than our fan base. A lot of our fan base was just tired of the constant beat down of, oh, it's racist, it's racist, it's racist, it's racist. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's stupid. The whole nine. I hate everything about it because it's not a slur. I'm a Redskin. I'm a proud Redskin. I love being a Redskin. You know what I mean? Like, I take that name with pride. We literally sing a song called Hail to the Redskins after every touchdown, after every win. I mean, this is not a hateful thing. Also, every single game that I went to, basically, we had Native Americans there that, like, from local tribes, from tribes around the country that came and we recognized them. Or, like, I only know about the World War II Navajo tribe that helped us with the language thing to beat, help us win World War II. Like, I only know about that because I went to these games and they talk about it. They have a whole slideshow on there. Like, it was an opportunity to really help, gain recognition for the Native Americans. And then, of course, that poll came out on Washington Post.
I was going to say, they interviewed Native Americans and they're like, yeah, we don't care.
Yeah, like, there's so many schools on Native American reservations that have the mascot Redskins. Like, this is not something, like, you don't go into, black neighborhoods and have a bunch of schools with the mascot N-words, right? Like, it's just not a thing that you have throughout the black community. Like, this, it's completely different with this Washington Redskins thing, and where it's not something that's hateful. And, like, I would imagine Native Americans came up with it, because their language is very much of a descriptive language, right? Like, a lot of their meanings are like, a lot of their words' meanings are like beautiful flower or like ugly this or whatever. It's like a very descriptive language. So, hey, you're the pale skins, right, that come over from Europe. We're the Redskins here because we have darker red skin. Like, it's just, the whole thing is nonsense to me. I hate everything about it. But all that being said, if we change the name to Red Wolves,
I think that's pretty cool.
I think it actually would be phenomenal if we could go to Red Wolves. That's the only name right now that I can really get behind.
See, my thing is just, and you can contest to this well, there's a history of the Washington Redskins, and there's a history of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's just not going to be the same if you get rid of that. Like, you grew up a Washington Redskins fan. I grew up a Kansas City Chiefs fan. If they change that, it's just like, you'll always root for your team, but it's just not the same. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I will say this going into it, it pretty much is the same. And
is it?
I mean, like, you have that feeling when you still have the name that, like, because you don't want the name to go. I don't have any less love for this team. I'm still rooting for them like hell on Sunday.
Well, I'm sure it'd be the same. It's just,
like,
you obviously would wish you kept the tradition.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, 100%. And as I said, also, we've been this thing has been a long time coming. It wasn't yesterday that you're changing the name. What?
Yeah.
Why? Like they've been doing this for decades now, trying to get this name changed, and it just sucks. But we're here. They are milking every last cent out of this. Wait until they come up with a new name. The Cleveland Indians, Cleveland Guardians. We're coming out next year. Cleveland Guardians. Just like that. With us, let's be the Washington football team, and we're going to take some fans' notes, and we're going to wait 2 years, and we're going to have this, and we're going to throw a little, the creating the brand or whatever it's called, making the brand videos that they're putting out on their social medias, and they're having a whole social media frenzy over what is the name going to be. And I just think it should be Red Wolves, hook, line, sinker, done, put it in the books. It's just so many things. I made a whole video on why it makes sense. We can keep HTTR. We can keep our fight song with just changing a few words. It's Hail to the Redskins. You can say Hail to the Red Wolves, Howl, Victory. Like we say, beat them, swamp them, touchdown, let the points soar. You could say, scratch them, claw them, touchdown, let the points soar. Or instead of Sons of Washington, you could have Wolves of Washington. At one point in the song, we have a rah, rah, rah chant. Make that just a big howl.
That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool.
Just a big howl at that point in the song. Like there's ties to the Native American community without any sort of racial slur attached to it, because the wolf and the Native American with the nature and the wolf kind of being a thing. Red wolves is an endangered species, so you can get PETA points. You kind of bring attention to endangered animals as a whole, but not only that, but like with an endangered animal as your mascot. There's that. It's also the best NFC East animal. They're endangered now, so they're kind of just now in the Carolinas, but their history has spanned all the way from Texas, so Dallas, all the way to New York, and then Philadelphia and Washington in there. So it's a great NFC East animal. I put a lot of thought into this, as you can tell. There's so much. Yeah. Call the stadium the Den. Call the fan base the Wolf Pack.
Why are you not on the marketing team? I don't understand this.
Yeah, this is just a no-brainer to me that I would be all for this name, and I hope that they're on board. It might end up being the Washington Wolves, but that still loses a couple of things. Also, like the Red Wolf, if you ever look up a Red Wolf, it has like a burgundy gold, like a tannish.
You don't have to change the uniforms.
Yeah, the colors make sense, and I don't know if you saw these all white unis that they posted on the social media.
I don't believe I have.
Look up Terry McLaurin Red Wolves when you get off here.
All right.
They are badass. Like, I don't even like the curse, but they are BA. Like, they're phenomenal. And coming out in those all white bad boys. Oh my God, in a night game, you have a big full moon on the thing. The wolves come out. Oh, there's so much.
Dude, you know how cool it'd be to like hear a howl from the crowd?
Oh,
like
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, it's, and really it's a whole thing of like the old heads to the newcomers, right? The young people love Red Wolves. They're ready to hop on. The old heads are like, no, it's a high school name. It's this, it's that. Imagine when you first came up with the freaking Packers or the Dolphins or the Pelicans or something like that, right? Like there's so many names out there that they're pee-wee teams until they're not.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no, now we're a professional team. There's so much. And also, there's no Red Wolves in DC. Oh yeah, let me know when there's Vikings in Minnesota or Blue Lions in Detroit or Orange Bears in
North
Chicago.
Carolina.
Yeah, Black Panthers in Carolina. Like that whole thing is terrible. But anyway, there's a lot to it.
I was gonna say my biggest thing is I feel like in this world we have a lot more bigger issues to tackle than changing names. And like I said, if they go for our name, our fan base will push back very, very hard. And I think that, the biggest thing that I saw when Washington decided to change their name, it was because FedEx pulled their or they pulled something along the lines of a big lucrative deal. Mm-hmm. I think if you change the name, a lot of people would stop going. And I think that's just because like Kansas Cityans, it's just like, it's a culture. You're a Chiefs fan. That's just how you grow up. And I think that, our fan base is good enough as it is. If you give them a reason to push back, they're going to push back. So I think Clark Hunt is going to be faced with a decision: upset the advertisers or upset the fans. And realistically, you can get all the advertisers in the world, but if you don't got people in the seat and watching your game, it doesn't matter.
It's also a lot harder to change the name when you're winning.
Yeah. I was going to say, if they win 2 more Super Bowls over the next 5 years, I know I'm dreaming big. They're a historic, I say that they're on the verge of being a historic franchise now, but they're a very, very good franchise. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you're not going to change the Dallas Cowboys name. Mm-hmm. You're not going to change the Patriots name. Mm-hmm. If you become that team, they're not going to change it. They can't change it because that's what they are. So
1,000%. Oh, wait. I did have one last question. Sorry. Go ahead and give me your season predictions / expectations for the Chiefs the rest of the way. What do you think? And I know you're in a terrible, tough division. Even without John Gruden, I mean, they still have most of their, or like, I don't know about their injuries, but they still have a great football team. Chargers, I think, are a top 5 team in the NFL right now. I think they're fantastic.
They're good.
I love that coach, Staley. And then the Broncos are not a team to mess around with. So what do you think the Chiefs' expectations and predictions the rest of the way?
I think that, there really was a hope coming into this season. I even made a video about it, and I did it because I kind of wanted to just document my thoughts at the time, that I thought this was the deepest Chiefs team we had. I thought the offense was going to be elite, and I thought, and the offense hasn't been bad, but I thought the defense was going to be
top 5.
Yeah, but even then, I thought that they could have been like 2018 good, in which there was no chance you'd stop them. But I think that, I thought the defense coming in was going to be a lot better than it has been. Even I thought they were going to be average, and they've just still found a way to disappoint me. But I thought this team was good enough to win the Super Bowl. I expected them to go like 15-2, which we're already past that. But the way that I see the rest of the season playing out, I think they're going to adjust. I could see them going 11-6, maybe 10-7. See, it's hard because there are a few games that I think they will win. But I think that the hope of going to a Super Bowl is kind of gone unless your defense improves. Like this team is not good enough to win a Super Bowl at this current moment in time. They're just not. And I think that that's tough for a lot of Chiefs fans to hear, and it's tough for me to admit, but they're just not. And if you've watched a game, you would know.
Oh, it's easy to admit. The Washington's not a Super Bowl team. It's easy. It's like,
yeah. It's just like, not
it's
right
exact
now.
Same thing. No,
not right now. I mean, I hope they squeeze into the playoffs. I think the Chargers are taking this division now. You're 2 games behind them. You play them later in the year, but the Chargers are really, really good.
They're phenomenal.
They're more complete than we are. And I think that, if they make the changes defensively, this offense, they still got a lot of talent, but if they don't make those changes, this team is going to be in for a disappointing year.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know where we're going to end up. We're in the stretch from hell. I don't know if you looked at the Washington football team schedule.
I haven't. I haven't even looked at our own schedule past this week.
just get ready for this real quick.
Okay.
I probably do it off of memory. No, here we go. Okay. We got the Chiefs. We got the Packers. We got the Broncos. We got the Buccaneers. We got the Panthers. Luckily, we'll have the Seahawks with no Russell Wilson, but that was going to be a tough one. Then we got the Raiders. And we got Dallas. That's our stretch. And then we finish the year with 4 division games. So those are never easy. Even if the Eagles and Giants suck, those are never going to be easy. We basically don't have another easy game on the schedule except for, you want to say, Russell Wilson-less Seattle now. So
I'm not going to lie. I think you beat Denver pretty handily. I don't think that.
We'll see.
The thing is,
defense
Denver,
is not bad, though.
The Denver gets exposed when they go up against a team that can put up points. But I guess with your defense, I don't know.
We're not doing jack squat until our defense figures it out. Like, this isn't like I said we could go 10-7, 9-8 going into this year because I thought our defense was going to carry us, and I said we were going to miss the playoffs by a game because I thought the Giants were going to be good. So I thought the Giants would beat us on the last game of the season, and we end up missing the playoffs by a game. But obviously, nobody saw this Washington defense being bottom 2 in points against, bottom 4, bottom 3 in yards against. I mean, not a lot of people saw this coming. If anybody, honestly, I don't know if there was a single person in the world that thought this defense was going to suck especially as bad as it's been.
Not me.
So,
I picked them up in fantasy thinking they were going to be great, and no,
it's the complete opposite. And I don't know. I've said this before. I don't know if there's ever been a time in history that a team that was supposed to be phenomenal on one side of the football flopped as hard as this right now without severe injuries. I mean, basically our entire team is healthy on defense. Yeah, maybe not healthy, maybe a couple banged up, but they're playing. And I don't know if I've ever seen a flop as hard as this on one side of the football, and it's incredible to watch. And unfortunately, of course, it's the Washington football team, and that's how we go.
It's kind of how I feel on defense, though. It's just like, how could it be this bad?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, go ahead and give yourself a shout out and tell people where to find you to end this thing, and we're going to wrap it up.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. That's KC_sports report. Twitter's at KCSportsReport. YouTube, KC Sports Report 2. I do appreciate coming on here talking to
KC Sports Report as well.
Yeah, on YouTube.
You said 2. I know you meant as well, but it kind of sounded like you had a 2 behind it. But no, KC Sports Report also.
Also on YouTube. And,
there you go.
I really appreciate you having me on, and I thought this was a good live stream.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun, and awesome. And thanks for everybody for showing up. Thank you so much for the super chats.
Did you hit 2K yet?
Did we hit 2K? Let's see. Did you share it out?
Oh, I forgot to. Shoot. I will, though. I'll get you to 2K. That'll be the goal.
No, I have not gotten any new subs. Usually these don't bring in new subs. It's, I enjoy the people that stop on through, and we have fun talking, but these aren't really like the kind of videos that quote-unquote bring in the subs, unless, of course, you share it out, which I obviously greatly appreciate it.
I will.
But,
I want to get you to 2K.
I just liked, thanks. Lazy takes. Thanks, man. Appreciate that, Ben Gooch. Honestly, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. I don't know your sense of humor, but either way, awesome. I'm glad you're here. No one but Redskins fans actually thought the defense would be elite. They have a good D-line. That's it. Come on now. Okay, we just paid a guy that's a first-round pick, $14 million.
I watched your defense last year. They were great. What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm glad you think that. Kellen Minkins, thanks for this is a good thing here. Thanks, appreciate you stopping through. Expert JK, you're a regular, awesome. Thanks for being here. He's our resident Browns fan. Hassan Moore, what's up, man? Richard Motley's here. Tim, where do we find these corn bluet cheesemen? What the heck? Yeah, we signed a guy, corn something. I don't. His first name's literally Corn. And then we signed a kicker named Blewett, Chris Blewett. That's a great name for a kicker. Cheeseman
I'm sure
is our
he
long
got
snapper.
bullied in high school because of that.
Yeah, 100%, 1,000%. It's hilarious. But these names compete. We had I don't know the last thing I'll say, and then we'll get out of here because I do have to get ready for my other podcast. But we had a guy named Fish Smithson. That was his name, Fish Smithson. There's some great names out there. What up, ProTech? Thanks for stopping on through. Zach's Plays Games. Thanks for being here. Red Wings stopped on by. Thank you so much. And of course, Real Cigar Jeff. Thank you for the super chat, and also Yin Yang Experience. And I think one more person gave me a super chat earlier. Crap, I forgot already. But thank you so much for all the super chats. Really appreciate everybody. Corn Elder, that's his last name. Thank you. Love the streams. Congrats on 2K subs. Thank you so much, RNG. Thanks for being here as well. All right, we're going to get on out of here, and thanks, everybody. And until next time, see ya!